Welcome back to Punk Uncle's Kitchen, where I am cooking tri-tip. Tri-tip is a staple at barbecues and parties all summer long and all throughout the year out on the West Coast, and especially here in California. It's probably the closest thing that we have to an actual barbecue style in California, even though it's not typically barbecue, it's usually grilled. But it's popular because it's good, but people mess this up all the time. I've had so much bad tri-tip in my life, I can't even explain it. Good news is, cooking the perfect tri-tip actually isn't that hard at all. So if you're sick of eating tough, overcooked tri-tip, hit that subscribe button, stick around and pay attention. The first step is picking the best tri-tip that you can find. I've got prime. These are USDA prime graded tri-tips here. Usually you can find choice if not prime. Sometimes cost is an issue too. I actually got a pretty good price on this today. I can tell you that if you can pop for the prime, it's definitely worth it. It makes a huge difference. What you see is you've got this marbling of fat running through the muscle, and it's almost like you can see each individual strand has just a tiny bit of fat between it. The more marbling you can get in there, the better that tri-tip's going to taste and the more tender it's going to be. Once you've got your tri-tip picked out, the next step in preparing it is getting that bitch out of the refrigerator, okay? You need to bring this down, or actually up, to room temperature or pretty close to it. One of the biggest mistakes and one of the biggest reasons you get crappy tri-tip out there is because people take it out of the refrigerator, throw it on the grill while it's still cold. When you put a cold tri-tip on the hot grill, what happens is the outer part of it cooks while the inside stays cold. It takes too much heat to bring that up to temperature. And so you end up getting a gray overcooked exterior with a cold red center. And then what happens from there is people don't want to serve rare meat, so then they keep cooking and the whole thing just ends up brutally overcooked and destroyed. As far as seasoning goes, all you need is a good simple rub. Forget marinades, those are for people who can't cook or for crappy meat. And after you watch this video, you will know how to cook tri-tip properly. Tonight I'm using a little rub that I whipped up. I've been using a version of this a lot lately because I've been working on rubs that pair well with wine. So what I've got is kosher salt. Kosher salt and coarse ground black pepper. Then I've got garlic and onion powder. There's a little bit of sage and rosemary, and then some cayenne pepper just to add a little bit of kick on the back of it. If you don't want to make your own rub, and that's cool, you can always go with something from the store. A very good one that's easy to find, I think just about everywhere, is just Montreal steak seasoning. I use that on tri-tips and steaks. If I run out of my own or if I'm out of ingredient for it, I'll go to that as a backup and it works just fine. With your seasoning in hand, all you gotta do is apply a good coat to both sides of the tri-tip. As you start getting a good coating there, just kind of pat it into the meat. I want to make sure it sticks to it when we flip it over. Another tip here is use one hand to touch the meat and one hand to grab the seasoning. That way if you have leftover rub, you can use it again. It's not contaminated from potential bacteria from the meat getting transferred into it. Now it's time to take this out to the grill. All right, our fire is ready. Our meat is up to room temperature, so it's time to get these guys on and get rocking. Come on in and look at this fire. Take a look at the fire here. We've got a nice bed of almond wood coals. I've let it burn down. We don't have any big flame, but these things are still substantial. There's still a lot of fuel there, and this is going to give me plenty of heat and duration to go ahead and cook these tri-tips. So we're going to lay these guys out. And we're going to lower the grill so we can get a good sear on both sides. Now, there's a lot of different cookers that you can use to cook tri-tip and make it come out really well. I've smoked it quite a few times, and that works well if you watch the temperatures and you know what you're doing. I prefer grilling tri-tip just because I like the sear on the outer part of it, you know, that provides some texture and a lot of really good flavor. You don't get that when you smoke it. So I like to grill, and to me, the best way to grill these by far is a Santa Maria grill like this. So you go with wood coals, and then you've got a grill that you can lift up and down and adjust the temperature for what you're trying to do with the meat. Now, I know not everyone has a Santa Maria grill where you can raise and lower the meat at will. So propane grills. You can do this on a propane grill too. A lot of propane grills now have a searing function, which works great for what I'm doing with the coals right now by lowering the grill. As long as you can get really high heat on that meat long enough to really brown and caramelize the outside of it, that's what you want to achieve. So if you don't have a searing burner on your propane grill, you can crank one side up super hot and sear it that way, and then move it over to a lower temperature side, you know, with the burners at a lower setting once you're ready to finish cooking it. If you have like a kettle or a regular charcoal grill, what you would want to do is just build a really hot side and then kind of a cooler side where you're going to cook indirect. So build your fire on one side of the grill, and then move your meat around accordingly. So you would start with the meat directly over the coals and then move it over off to the side where there aren't coals and use kind of indirect heat to finish cooking it. All right, these have been on here for a few minutes. I think we're getting some pretty good grill marks on the first side, so let's go ahead and flip them, take a look. Oh yeah. So we'll go ahead and let it do the exact same thing on this side, and then we'll move it up and back the heat off just a little bit to finish them off. As I've been saying through this process, tri-tip is something that's really best kept simple. I basically treat it like a big steak. I cook it like, you know, I would cook a New York or a ribeye. It's just bigger and it takes longer. But I hear a lot of people, I mean, I've always heard, you know, the entire time since I was a kid, people say, oh, tri-tip's easy to cook. You just throw it on for 45 minutes, wrap it in foil, and it's great. It's terrible. You don't do that. And then I've heard people on barbecue forums talk about treating it like brisket and cooking it that way to like a 200-degree internal temperature, which is insane. Tri-tip doesn't have the fat or the collagen that's in brisket, and that collagen is the reason you have to cook brisket that high, because that's when it breaks down and becomes tender. This is a completely different muscle, so it needs to be treated differently. We've got a pretty good sear on both sides now, so what I'm going to do is just raise my grill up so I don't have that super intense heat on it the rest of the time. And it's not really that it would be bad to cook it at that temperature, but it will just blacken the whole bottom side if I don't pull it up and get a little bit more air between the wood and the meat. This is a good time, even though I know it's not ready. I'm going to get a temperature internally just so I have an idea of what I've got left here. So we're just about 97 degrees in the center of that one. A little hotter on this one. This one's not quite as thick. So right at or just under 100 degrees. I'm going to cook these. I'm going to pull them off right around 130 degrees. Because what happens is when you rest this afterwards, that temperature is going to continue to rise. So I want these to land right around 135, and that's a perfect medium rare. We've got a good temperature on both of these, so we're going to pull these off the grill, take them inside, let them rest for 8 or 9 minutes, and then I'll show you how to slice these the right way. The meat is rested and we are finally ready to eat. The last step is slicing, and I can't stress enough how important this is. If you slice, you can cook tri-tip perfectly, but then if you slice it the wrong way, it's still going to be kind of chewy and definitely not as good as it can be. So come in here, take a look. The tri-tip is actually got two different muscles as part of this one cut. So you've got grain here that's running this way, and then this grain is running more long ways here. And you can kind of flip it over if you need to and see the two different directions. But you'll find somewhere kind of in this, there's almost like an elbow in most tri-tips. And like this is the cut point here. So this is what's gonna do is give me two pieces to slice. This way I can slice across perpendicular to the grain on both of these. So you see we've got our internal temp nailed there. That's a nice medium rare. Then we're gonna come around, this one's got the grain running this way. So we're gonna just slice. And you can see these guys, the grain is open that way. If we were to cut along the grain, you would just see the strings going that way. And that's really hard to bite apart, because we cut through this grain, it's much easier to chew. Last but not least, I've got to give you guys a wine pairing. There's a lot of ways you can go with beef. Tri-tip, the way we've grilled it, you could actually do a Pinot Noir with this, but I like to go with something a little more substantial, something that might have a little more smokiness and a little more herbaceous quality. So I pulled a Zinfandel. Zinfandel is really safe with grilled meat. And this is one by Turley. It's from Contra Costa County. It's from the Duarte Vineyard. It is 2017 2017 vintage. And I think this is gonna pair really well. We've decanted this for about an hour. So this bad boy should be tasting really good right now. Hopefully this video clears up any confusion you've had over the best way to cook tri-tip. Keep it simple, stupid. It's really the way to go. I'm gonna enjoy this wine and this meat before it gets cold. If you guys like the video, hit that button, hit the subscribe button, please. And if you got any questions after the video, put them in the comments. You got something you wanna see me cook or learn about? Let me know that in the comments as well. Till then, you guys, cheers.